Hello and welcome to everybody. Thank you, Hitesh. That was very beautiful. That was very unique. I'm very amazed at the response that all of you are here. We are doing this live, and I'll give a very quick introduction about myself so that you guys know who we are listening to. And I'm going to flip between languages so that my sharing today is accessible to most people. In case there's any doubt or any word that you feel like that I need to explain it in Hindi or the Hindi version in English, please feel free to tell me. Okay. So I am Ujjwal Batra and
Just,
I
Ujjwal,
started my journey
just 1 second,
into.
Ujjwal. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have a couple of folks from across the world. So some
Okay.
of them might not be comfortable with Hindi.
No, I would be speaking mostly in English only, but sometimes, in case somebody feels like wanting to know anything in Hindi, I will be very well open to do that for people.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So my journey into spiritual practices and on the path of awareness started when I was all of 9. So when I was 9 years old, it was very beautiful. It's often in my sharings, I often say that I really do not have any words to express what it was. It was just it's a moment. It was an aha moment, or it was just like whatever it was, very beautiful. And I started connecting with the subtle energies, which in today's, especially the modality based world, we give terms to everything. So we call it channeling, but I still do not use that word because I see it was just some kind of connection. It was some beautiful process, some beautiful connection with the energies. And from there, my journey began. So from there to the introduction, which you guys need to know about my role in family constellations. So my first time, my introduction to family constellations was in March 2016. Okay. And now it's 2021. So how many years? Around 5 years. Okay. So it's been 5 years. I've been deeply researching, understanding the work and the processes involved in family constellations. So I learned from different schools. I have beautiful teachers. I have many guides and masters. But also because since I have a beautiful bond with QLU, we are the ones who also believe a lot in connecting, in meditating upon these facts. Because my only thing is that we talk, we talk about a lot of things in our modality processes, but how much are we integrating what we are talking about? If if I were to put it simply, हम दुनियावी बातें बहुत करते हैं. We talk a lot about the worldly facts. This is how it should be. This is how this modality says. You tell me what is happening in your family. You tell me how is it going to apply in your family. Don't tell me theory. Don't tell me just random facts that a mother is big, a father, a child is small. How does it make sense? Tell me. So tell me, how is it more insaniyat? How is it more insani? That is how is it more humanly? That is what we are going to talk today. Because Joining Hands is bringing to you a series of family constellation therapists and so many talks, and they will be talking upon specific parts of family constellation, is what I'm assuming. This is the first lecture, and I want this first lecture to be very give you an overview about the not only the modality but the idea of what is inherited family trauma. Modality is always a method of how we perform something. It's just like that you get an injury. There can be three ways to solve that injury. One is that you just wash it with the water, let it be, wait for 7 days, the injury will heal. The second method would be you apply some betadine or sopramycin and the recovery will be faster. Maybe this injury is of a different type. You might have to put a bandage. Those methods are what modalities do. So today I may not be talking only and only in the context of family constellation, but I will be talking in the larger area. Where does family constellation apply? Why family constellation? What is family constellation? What is inherited family trauma? So that is why when I've given the name to our today's process is soul movements in a family. There's a reason why I'm calling it is as this. So before talk about soul movements in a family, I always prefer starting with a meditation. So we will do 2 minutes, okay? We will just do 2 minutes because these things are satsang. In today's world, satsang doesn't have to be that I have those bajas and I do have those musical instruments and I have a deity's picture here and a jyot here. Any talk that we are doing to uplift ourselves is a satsang. Ours is a sajjan sangati, right? So let us start with the meditation so that we really open our minds and our hearts to receiving this knowledge. So everybody, I invite you to just close your eyes for 2 minutes. Wherever you are, whether you are a believer or a non-believer, that is absolutely fine. All of you have your breath. So with your eyes closed, take your complete attention to your breath. Whatever is happening in the family, it has been happening for so many years, it will continue to happen. You come here right now. Bring your attention to your breath. And with complete mindful awareness, just know how the breath is coming in and how the breath is going out. Just very, very mindfully being aware, nothing to do. You've been breathing for all these years. Since the day you were alive, you've been breathing. Till the day you will be alive, the only thing that will stay with you is your breath. People come, people will go, emotions come, they go. The only thing, at least in your awareness, is your breath. So just for a moment more, just stay with this awareness of your breath. And no need to rectify it with the ideas that the breath should be long and deep or it should be short and shallow. Nothing to alter. Just stay with your breath. And in this moment of awareness, I want you to also think, where did you come from? For example, if you're 20 years old, where were you 20 years back? If you're 50 years old, where were you 50 years back? If you're 80, where were you 80 years back? Where did you come from? Just stay with that question. You don't have to explore the answers. Just stay with this question. Where were you all these years ago? And who were you before that? And where were you before that? And then who were you before that? And then before that? And then before that? And just with these questions, I want you to bring your attention back to your breath. And then as you bring your attention back to your breath, bring a smile, a gentle smile, as in gentle, tender smile on your face. You come back with that and you open your eyes. Okay? So now we are ready and set. I have a very small PPT. I am usually not a very PPT person, but when we are talking to a lot of people, especially those who are hearing me for the first time, what I understand is that in Zoom classes and everything, the language and everything matters. So I bring these PPTs just to fill that gap in case if it shows up, so that you know what I'm talking about. Okay? So when I talk about soul movements in a family, if you are here, if you have come here, you guys might be having at least some clue of what a soul is. You're not coming to Joining Hands without any idea of at least that you have never heard in the idea of soul. Whether you believe in it or not, that is another topic. But at least you know that there is something. We talk about, my soul, in Sanskrit, we use the word Atma, my Atman, my Atma is moving, my Atma is doing that. When I was born, there was this Atma. When I died, there was this Atma. We use these heavy terms. But we always use it in the context of I, my mother's soul, my father's soul, my soul. So here we bring to you today a very beautiful concept of a soul in a family. So what do we understand by that? So that is what we are going to explore. So in our spiritual world, in our terms, we often hear about this word infinite consciousness. We hear such fantastic definitions of infinite consciousness that they often go above our head. It is that one union conscious, undivided consciousness. It is that one Brahman. It is that one energy. Somebody calls it Shiva. Somebody calls it Krishna. Somebody calls it Jesus. Somebody calls it union. Somebody calls it Paramatma. Very, very beautiful, very real terms. But let us come back to Grihastha Jivan. Let us come back to our home. Do you understand that? Have you experienced that fully? Even though you have come from there, tell me, how will you understand infinite consciousness? So let us break that beautiful definition into smaller chunks of understanding as a grihastha yogi, as a person who's staying at home, that I came, I have a consciousness. Yes or no? I have a consciousness. Then there was this mother who brought me up. Maybe she was alive, maybe she was not there, but at least I've come from her ovum. Her ovum had to be there if I'm born. Then there was this father, good or bad, doesn't matter, very beautiful, not very beautiful, doesn't matter. I've come from I have his gene. He came from, and she came from the other two parents. And then they came from more parents. And it's like this, if we talk about so many generations, there will be infinite people who are contributing their consciousness, their idea, their perception of life into who I am today, into who I'm sitting right now here talking. At least a molecule of their consciousness is in me. Okay, let us go beyond the idea of humans. So when we talk about reincarnation, we believe that we have lived many, many lifetimes. I am in this body, in this era, in this moment, talking as Ujjwal Batra. Maybe in a different lifetime, I was in a completely different being. Let us stay with human lifetimes only. I was some another person. After I died, my causal body still continued. The Karan Sharir is still with me. I am definitely carrying the consciousness of another incarnation. Going beyond the human lifetime, I was also an animal. Sometime back, I and all of us were animals. We are definitely holding the consciousness of the animals. And then many, many times we were animals. There were times when we were plants. Then there were times we were people of all kinds. Like my teacher, one of my teachers talks about 4 P's, that all of us have been princes and all of us have been peasants. All of us have been prostitutes and all of us have been, so it's one is peasants, one is prostitute, priests, and we all of us have the consciousness of the priest. We all have been all roles. Now just think of it, all that I said, you, your parents, their parents, your animal lifetimes, your plant lifetimes, your different roles in human consciousness. Isn't this is what is infinite? And all of these things have a rust in you. All of these things are contributing something, their juice in who you are today. And that is what makes you who you are. This is what all about inner exploration is. That sometimes you're exploring your childhood, sometimes you're exploring another lifetime, sometimes you're exploring your family background, sometimes you're exploring your spiritual self, sometimes you're exploring this and that. All these things which contribute into being you is what brings in the simplest formula, the fundamental, that you are a conscious being and you are an embodiment of infinite consciousness. So then going forward, we are also born in a family. We have come into a family. So then how do we relate this idea? How do we operate in a system of family? So there comes a word, a very beautiful word that I would like to introduce to all of you, is a system. अभी system को समझते हैं. Let us talk about system. अभी don't read anything what I have written. Think, when have you used the word system? Have you told somebody, if you are an Indian family, have you said it in your language? हमारे यहाँ तो ऐसे ही चलता है जी. Or maybe wherever you're coming from, this is how it goes in our family. You don't come and tell us what is to be done. Or for example, I'm Ujjwal Batra. So how am I going to say something? For example, somebody says, some random, ABC person comes and says, do not eat a vegetable, probably, or do not eat this fruit. It's not good for your health. What would I usually say? We usually eat this in our family. Or every Navratri, this is what we cook. This is our system. So what do we mean by the word when we say system? That it's a pratha, it's a way of life, it's how we see it, it's how we understand how the mechanics in my family works. So family becomes a system. To make it more clear, I also brought these Oxford definitions, for you guys, because I don't know, people from all backgrounds will be listening to me. So rather than me saying everything in a very simple and gharelu language, I also want little intellectual part to be discussed. So what does Oxford say? It says a set of things working together, a set of things. I want you to see the words. For therapists, words are important. Working together as a part of mechanism or an interconnecting complex, an interconnecting network, which is complex, which makes it whole. That there are different elements involved, and when they are working together in harmony, in tandem to each other, maybe not in harmony all the time, but still in tandem to each other, and they are working, that becomes a system. Those who are feeling right now, what is the system? You think system, I'm not getting it. You, for now, you just change the word to network. While network is not the most appropriate word, but for understanding, just for a minute, change it to a network. That it's like a network. Or if you have understood, if you have a biological background, do you know what is a food web? There's something called as a food chain that probably, a mice, the mice eat probably some insect, the mice is eaten by some another animal, that animal is eaten by another animal, and then finally it is eaten by a lion. This is called a food chain. But then when many interconnecting chains are operating in nature, it becomes a web, it becomes a network. Similarly, that complex interconnecting network where everybody is supporting each other and working in some order, it becomes a system. Or there's another very beautiful definition I came across, that a system is a group of interacting and interrelated entities that form a unified whole. That form a unified whole. A system surrounded and influenced by its environment is described by its boundaries, structure, purpose, and expressed in its functioning. This is exactly a definition of your family. There are certain boundaries. Your family has a structure. Every family has their own purposes. They express themselves very differently. Every home has a different environment. And when they're interacting with each other, it shows up as a system. So let me give you more examples of system, because when you'll understand this in the coming lectures, whatever will be happening about family constellations, I want you guys to be very clear and thorough about what is a family constellation, how is it working. So you go to a hospital, for example, I'm not promoting any brand, but for example, you go to Max Hospital and then you go to Fortis Hospital, you always sense something different. Why? The doctors have studied similar things. The management science are very similar, but even the same colleges that are teaching MBA operate differently. Why? Because what do they say? हमारे यहाँ का system ऐसा है. This is how we operate. This is how our system is. That over here our doctors come at this time they go, they don't take patient calls after this time or anything. That is their system. They have their own boundaries, they have their own structure, and the similar education, the similar format, the similar people will be operating very differently in another job. For example, you go to a new office, you were in a very beautiful work culture, and you suddenly go into another corporate company, and you're complaining about your boss to the another friend, and you're saying, see, he did not listen or acknowledge this part of my work. I was always acknowledged, I had this kind of job, this, that, blah blah blah. And the other person who has been working in that company for past 10-15 years, mostly what is the common response? यहाँ ऐसे ही चलता है. This is how it happens here. यहाँ का तो system ही ऐसा है, हम तो हैं ही ऐसे. Because this is how it operates. And that talks about the system. And then what troubles you? What troubles you is that you are finding difficulty in fitting into that system. There's an already existing system, but you are getting troubled. So now who is at wrong? Is the system wrong, or you're being triggered by the originally set format, which is an already existing system where you are not finding your position or place? That is what we are going to talk about today. So a very beautiful note that I added in the end is that all these systems that I'm talking about, your house is a system, कि हमारे यहाँ सुबह 8 बजे उठते हैं, that we get up at 8 a.m., we sleep by this time, our children come home by this time, every Diwali our children have to come to us. Your neighbor will say, no, we don't, we are not, we are a very modern family, we don't invite our children, let them be where they are. But you would say we are also very modern, but it's the system of our family that we have to celebrate together. So many different things about systems. So what is this idea of system? I've written it in these 3 lines. That is, all these systems have their very unique roles and positions, rules and norms to maintain order. This is how everybody maintains order, right? Like if you see these beautiful Netflix shows. So I talk about these things in a lot of therapy sessions about shows because it makes it more convenient for us to relate. These people have this Thanksgiving ka idea, that every Thanksgiving, even if you're very distantly placed, you fly across, and it's a very a beautiful thing to meet. So why are they meeting? And why has it become a compulsion? Because that is what helps this norm that every Thanksgiving we will meet. It helps you maintain certain order. Now, what is that order telling you? That we are a family. We will stay together despite wherever we are. We are going to meet together. So we put a ceremony around it. Similarly, there are people, in India who have the Satyanarayan Puja. And when they have the Satyanarayan Puja, they invite everybody. You have to travel sometimes for those pujas. Again, another norm, another thing that has been put into order, that this has to be done so that the order is maintained. And this is the root of actually customs and cultures. इनको रीति रिवाज बोलते हैं. Later, actually, they lost its meaning. So now we question why is it happening? But it wasn't happening to please some deity or God all the time. It was just happening to keep certain order alive. So every system can be considered to have a life of its own. Every system can be considered to have a life of its own. And let us call that in today's session as family soul. And how do you understand what is a family soul? Is the collective energy of a family. So what do I mean by collective energy? So this is my phone. My phone is emitting some EMF, yes or no? If I bring one more phone, I don't have many phones right now, but just imagine I bring another phone, that phone would have its own EMF. I bring another phone, that phone would have its own EMF. All these phones have the individual energies. Now I bring them together, they will continue to have their individual energies, but together all these electromagnetic forces will get together and will create a larger pool of EMF. Yes or no? That is the collective energy of a family. This is me, this is my soul, this is my mother's soul, this is my father's soul, and then you think about the so many souls I talked about, unke pita, unke mata, their parents, and then their parents. When it comes together, the collective energy, the collective subtle body that is created, that is the collective energy of the family, which is a family soul. So it is not a mata or a pita sitting in this mudra, which is a family soul. That's just a representation of the collective energy. Okay? It is beyond any gender, it is beyond any idea, perception, or culture. So that is what we work in the idea of family constellations. We work with the soul of the family. So this very beautiful quote I came across by Bert Hellinger. So Bert Hellinger is the discoverer of family constellations. A lot of people also talk about him that he invented it, but as a science student, my background goes into science. I keep these words very clear. So while he introduced the topic and he named family constellations as family constellations, but he was himself a family therapist and with a lot of knowledge and a priest as well. He brought into the awareness of how the dynamics can be put on a field and the energy and the movement can be brought into the collective family soul through a method. So he was the one who discovered the method of family constellations. So this very beautiful quote it means over here is that the greater soul moves only in one direction, that is to bring into union that has been made separate. He क्या लिख दिया इन्होंने? What is he said? It's a very profound quote. So in my language, just replace the greater soul as the family soul. So greater soul over here is the larger soul, which is the family soul, which is the soul beyond your conscience. That soul is always moving into one direction. And what is that one direction? It is the direction of union. It is the direction of harmony, to bring into union that has been made separate. So this separation is what actually, a lot of therapists will tell you about as entanglement. All the entanglements are basically disruptions in the system of family. So if you listen to these beautiful Vedic gurus, Indian gurus, what are they talking about? Being one with our divine consciousness, or this undivided consciousness, infinite consciousness, or yoga. What does the word yoga means? Union. If you talk about the English concept of this one, so they use the word oneness principle. You realize everybody's talking about some union. What is this union? Everybody's talking about it. The random yoga guru comes and says being one with your true source. The other person says yoga means becoming divine. The other guru comes and says, merge into the undivided consciousness, which is one. The other guru comes and says oneness is the reality of life, but we are over here feeling so individual, lonely, and separated. So then what are we talking about? What is this oneness? And as a systemic therapist, again, I've brought in the same, word, bringing into union. So the idea is that as a collective, Even our family soul is trying to merge with that union. It is going back into the awareness of where it came from, merging into that union. But when that is not happening, we feel separated, we feel unattended, we feel depressed, we feel anxious, because there is some kind of entanglement that has happened in this pool, because of which this greater soul, this family soul, is nudging us, time and again to resolve those entanglements. How I like explaining it is that uh, so what do we call a nali in English? Like a gutter. Okay, whenever there's a blockage in your nali, in your gutter, in the sewerage system, what do you do usually? If it's a normal gutter outside your house, usually it's a plastic poly bag that is kept there, right? You use a stick, you just lift that poly bag up, and the water begins to flow again. The same water, the same nali, but it was not flowing. The flow was interrupted because there was some garbage stuck inside. What you did was nothing. You just lifted up that what was the entanglement, what was the blockage, and the natural rhythm and flow of life again continued. It restored its order. That is what is done in this world. That while the collective intention is to be in that union, but whatever, due to the entanglements, due to the separation, due to so many disruptions in the orders of the family, whatever the kuda kachra, the knots that have been made in the family system, because of which somebody in the family or maybe generations in the family are going through some problem, the only work that we are doing is to bring a regular rhythmic flow in that motion, because the greater soul will always and always move into the direction of union, into the direction of resolution, nowhere else, right? So then how do we know about all of these things? Okay, Ujjwal, you're talking about this, you're talking about that happened, but then how do we know, or how do we resolve it? Baatein karni theek hai, but then how do we really do it? So then where comes a very beautiful concept of something called as the knowing field. So how do you understand knowing field? Just break the terms. Break the terms. Knowing means something that knows. Field means a pedestal, a sthan. So the whole universe, the whole planet is a knowing field. If you see the whole planet, I'm not saying planet as dharti, as in the ground. It's not the ground. I'm talking about the complete consciousness knows. You may not know what happened in your family 3 generations back, but that memory is stored somewhere. A lot of people call it as akasha, or when you talk about akashic records, what is that? It's not a literal book that you open at page number 169, this and this has been written, somebody is literally writing. But the design of the universe is such that everything is recorded. Whether you talk about regression, whether you're talking about your going back into any space place, whether you're meditating, you're accessing, there is some information, some memory stored in the akasha, into the space, into the ether. Yes or no? Similarly, in the family constellation work, we give that akash, that field, that space, as the term of the knowing field, that field which knows. You don't have to know. And it's my everyday work. Every alternate day I'm holding a constellation, and every time, despite doing it for so long, every time we are just left blown by the field that, wow, where did it come from? Our volunteers are all the time asking me this only. How did we access it? How? And our clients are just sitting shocked in awareness and awe that how is it showing up? Because the memory stays. Something happened 3 generations back. Somebody was aborted. Somebody was thrown out of the family. Somebody was kicked. Somebody was murdered. You may not know, but it will show up because the memory exists. So that is where I say that the larger soul is always moving towards finding balance, finding equilibrium, and bringing resolution in the field. That is what the job of the field is. But what happens is, at the larger level it is happening, at the larger level the soul is trying to bring resolution, but in that sense something moves, some chaos happens in the individual lives. And that is where we say that the challenges are occurring, that I am having sleepless nights, or every time there is some chatter going on in my mind, or maybe, every woman that comes into our family, she faces this disease or she faces this struggle. So you will say, Ujjwal, how is it bringing balance? How is it bringing equilibrium? It is bringing more chaos. So what happens is that the field is conditioned. एक तरीके से ऐसे समझिए that the creator made it and slept. Just like the concept of deism, that there's this guy, the one who makes the clocks, he puts the system in order, he puts the clock right, and then he doesn't give a damn about the clock. Now the clock has a system of its own, it is running on its own. So the field has been set to push you guys into the order of union, into the resolution. Now the resolution only happens when certain triggers get alive. And that is where your awareness helps you become aware that, okay, this is where something is missing. This is where the missing link of my family is. Probably this is what happened. Probably this left unacknowledged. Probably this is buried. And it was buried 3 generations back, but it is still, radiating its energy. Now, what do I do about it? And that is where your awareness helps you put things into order again. Something that you feel is chaotic and which the field is trying to bring in resolution. What merges these two different things, your chaos and the idea of resolution, is your awareness. And that is where we say, only the truth shall set you free. And because your awareness helps you identify the truth, that what was the reality. So this a very beautiful friend and client of mine drew this very beautiful picture, which I've shared in the PPT. That's only to help you understand it more, that this is how we are carrying. That the mini one is a part of the larger one. And that larger one is a part of the further larger one. And that is further a part of another system. Even though we are individuals and we have our own individual stories, as a systemic therapist, we believe it's not only your individual karma, it is also a family karma. Now, definitely, you are allowed to ask me the question that, Ujjwal, then what do you mean? Individual karma doesn't exist? Or is it only family karma? Or then how do the both relate? You're free to ask me, and I would as of now, I might answer it in the lecture, but I would like to you to think over this question. Okay, that then what is the idea there of individual and family karma? But as what I would say is both exist and both go in tandem with each other. So we have understood the idea that there's a field, there is something that knows, aisa sab kuch hai, it's happening, the ancestors are there, everything is happening. But then, how is it operating? So to understand it more, in the more lectures where you will understand about this ancestry and everything, what has the most priority in your life? How do we operate? So these levels of conscience has to be understood very well. So there's a difference between consciousness and conscience. So I would like to ask some of you, do you guys know the difference between conscience and consciousness? Would anybody like to come over the screen and share with me? What do you understand? If there is an English difference that you can tell me, or something else. Let me see. Is there anybody willing? I can't see all of you. Okay, people are wondering what if they go wrong. That's okay. So I'll answer it. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Can I attempt? Okay. Conscience is when you differentiate between the right and wrong, and you say, okay, this is right, and yes, I should do it, or that is wrong, I shouldn't do it. But sometimes you do it and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Whereas a consciousness would be awareness.
Yeah.
In the larger perspective.
Very beautiful. What is your name, ma'am? I mean, very beautiful. Not a lot of people really understand. I will still explain for everybody, but thank you. You used a lot of right words. Yeah, thank you. So if I talk about conscience, conscience is your inner knowing. It is your idea of your inner knowing. For example, ऐसा है. It is what you feel, your idea of what is wrong and what is right. ऐसे ही होता है. This is what my inner knowing is. That is what is your conscience. My conscience, have you heard yourself saying, my conscience doesn't allow me to do this. My conscience, you never say my consciousness does not allow me to do this. You say my conscience doesn't allow me to do that. So what is this conscience? It tells you what your inner knowing, what your idea of life is. So if I were to give it a Hindi word, it is somewhere आपकी सोच, आपकी प्रवृत्ति कैसी है. And whereas your consciousness is your chetana, your level of awareness. That how aware are you? What are the dimensions of your chetana? That what are you aware of in these dimensions? So like I'm giving you this lecture today. Is it adding to your conscience or your consciousness? I may not be able to change your inner knowing right now. But when we do these Sajjan Sangati, when we do these lectures, it is adding on to our awareness, the levels of our insight, the levels of our consciousness. And whereas through consciousness, the more we enhance and evolve into this level, into this arena of consciousness, our conscience begins to change. Our conscience begins to evolve and modify and go through different, our ideas of good and bad, right and wrong, they become different. And as we are developing on the levels of consciousness, we become ready to go beyond the idea of good and bad and right and wrong. And that is what I have to share in the idea of family constellations as well, because in actually when you're laying the field, there's actually not everything good and bad. It is always the perceptions. The perpetrator has been a victim. The victim has always been a perpetrator. But at that moment, it is showing up, but there's a lot of background in it. So through our awareness, we bring in certain changes in the inner knowing, in the inner sense that usually finds its expression in the system. So there are three kinds of conscience that operates in our life. So the first is personal. So what is personal conscience? Which is yours. It is yours. It belongs to you. Where you talk about what in me has attracted this life partner, what in me attracted this job. Why am I going through this health issue? What in me? What about me? I, me, my, mine. That is what talks about your personal conscience, which also talks about your personal belief system. For example, you stayed somewhere for 5 years and now you have learned that idea of life, and you come, for example, you stayed abroad and now you come back and now your Indian parents are doing something very Indian. What will your inner knowings, what will your mind say? This is not right. This is not how it should be. This is wrong, or this is right, or this is how it can be done better. But for all the 25 years you were in India, you were unaware of that. But now your inner knowing has changed. That is what operates from the personal conscience. When we talk about the idea of family conscience, we go many, many levels, not even one level. We go many, many levels beyond, and we understand that there's a family conscience as well. Have you heard these young children saying certain dialogues which are like, how and why? Where are they using these dialogues from? And that are coming from their family. For example, I'll tell you, I was just recently talking, and with no offense to anybody, whatever your conscience and principles are, those belong to you. I'm just, for the sake of sharing, for making people understand, I'm giving some examples. I was talking to this client of mine 2-3 days back. He came to me, of course, for a session. So I was trying to understand his core language. And after every 5 minutes, randomly, while he loves his mother and everything, after every 5 minutes, he's just saying, but औरतें तो बोलती बहुत है ना, औरतें तो बोलती बहुत है, औरतें तो बोलती बहुत है, औरतें तो बोलती बहुत है. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Why is he? I mean, it doesn't even make sense, because he's telling me an absolutely different story about his job and everything. But I realized if he's using it so repeatedly, it's not his language. That's why I asked him, I said, XYZ, whose language are you repeating? Whose dialogues are these? And he did not get it. So I explained it to him. And then he said, but aisa hi to hota hai. This is what my father said about my mother. This is what my grandfather said about my grandmother. What was said in the family repeatedly has become the voice of somebody's head now. And even if it does not make sense, he's just using that statement everywhere as if it is the fact of life. It is the perception of the family, but he has made it as a fact of his life. And that is where he's attracting and getting his triggers and challenges. So whose conscience, whose inner knowing has been fed into him is of the family, is what the family believes. Or for example, let's take another example. Uh, I had a client 2-3 years back who said, Ujjwal, after, so she was a female and she said after 8:30, so actually she came to me for an anxiety issue. And usually when in therapy, we start identifying, ye kya hua, aise kya hua, what happened then. But I was just listening to her that day and I asked, I don't know, maybe sometimes the field asks you to speak some certain things. I asked, okay, tell me, when do you get the anxious the most? She said, Ujjwal, you know what, after 8:30 p.m., I start getting anxiety attacks. I said, what is this 8:30 p.m.? So your body has some cycle around 8:30 p.m. then. We could not identify it in the first interview. Then just before her constellation, we were just talking, and then she said, you know what? Mummy always said that you have to come before 8 o'clock, otherwise something wrong will happen to you. And then, now I won't go on with the case study in detail because then how will we talk so much other things? There I realized that a conscience has been, her inner knowing is talking about that after 8 o'clock, whatever I will be do, I am unsafe. Something wrong might happen after 8 p.m. So that 8 p.m., 8 to 8:30 became such a fearful time for her that she was unaware that it is that place, that dialogue of the mother where she kept on saying, you have to be home before 8 p.m. Otherwise something wrong will happen with you. That stayed with her, and now wherever she is around 8:30 something happens to her. And are you realizing how these beliefs are passed down? And it never belonged to her, but it was the idea of her mother. Actually, it was the limiting belief of the mother that something wrong, and maybe, who knows, the mother was told the same. That got passed down and it became her conscience. It became something, a voice in her head, that after 8 something wrong happens. That became her perception of life. These are not facts of life, please note that. These are your perceptions. And that was the cause of her anxiety. And once we did something, we brought some movement in the field, we brought in awareness of the facts, and she could free herself from the burden of carrying this idea that 8 to 8:30 is wrong. And that restlessness in the body started subsiding after a few weeks. And then comes this another idea, which is beyond our hold, is transcendental consciousness. Oh, sorry, transcendental conscience. So which is, why is it only you guys have come to listen to me? What I'm assuming is Joining Hands would have different people. Why are you only the ones who have come here to listen to me? Because there's some collective resonance. Or like if you have been going for certain workshops, a lot of therapists say that every group has a life of its own. Every group comes together for a particular purpose, for a particular meaning. So the collective strategy, the collective gathering is where the idea of the conscience of the transcendental comes in play. So on the journey of inner work, maximum that we can do is our personal, maximum we can work is in the field of personal conscience. That is something that we can be masters of. And that becomes the purpose of many of us, to really go within. When we say go within, but on this path, we explore a lot of things. And the other area that we can work a lot, I will still not say completely, because when we talk about family conscience, there are the free wills and roles of so many people. In your 7 generations, from more than 250 people are a part of 7 generations of your family. So many people get involved. So you can work for yourself till a great extent, maybe not complete extent, right? Because there are many people involved. But transcendental is one area where we individually cannot make a lot of shift all the time. When we just keep on working upon our personal and family consciousness, the resultant of it together as a collective shows up naturally in the transcendental consciousness, but it doesn't always is in our hold. So have you heard about these beautiful things? My business, our business, and God's business. You may be a believer of God or not, that doesn't have to deal. I'm just trying to explain it. Personal, the point number one is my business. The maximum that I can manage is my business. I can have complete hold of my business, family business, our business. I can influence, I can reach out to a lot of things, but God's business, whenever I've tried taking over that, it doesn't work because that is not my business. And that is where the idea of these three come in. So you can tell me in the chat box if you're able to understand till here what I talked about. So, that is why I've added this line in between, that as a therapist, what I would like to say is that family soul operates beyond your personal conscience. So you may be a person who might feel this should not be done, or this is how the rightfulness of life, or your ideas of right and wrong, good and bad. But maybe your family doesn't believe in that, and that's okay. Because till the time you will always try to change everybody and bring your conscience in the heads of everybody, the entanglement continues to trigger you. So through all these works, I would also like you to settle in with the awareness that the family soul often operates beyond your conscience. It's a collective energy, and it makes sure that the family, including you, goes through what it needs to go through to finally bring in balance. The end goal, the end aim is to bring in balance and order only. And that is what you're going to see in family constellation sessions as well. That even the therapist, and not even the therapist, the field is trying to move in a way that with every constellation, some balance is restored. The rightful positions are given. The rightful ages are seen through. The people are acknowledged. The dead are seen. We're going to talk about these things in the next slide. But before that, I will quickly take a look at the chat box to see if you guys are getting what I'm saying. Okay, great. Perfect. Sushmita ji says, please explain the third point again. So the third point is transcendental conscience, which believes, as I'm saying, if I were to just put it very crisply, something is my business that I can do and I can manage on my own. Something is our business, is a collective business, which is a family conscience. And then is God's business. For example, coronavirus. Is it me only who has caused it? Or is it my Batra family which has caused it? Or is it the complete collective which has made it happen? It is the complete collective which has made it happen. Can I be the single one? I can say, oh, I will do shoo, sha, shoo, and coronavirus go away. Can it influence? It won't. Then how will it? I will just continue to work upon my fears, my ideas, my understanding of this beautiful energy that has shown up. I'm sorry if the word beautiful is triggering to some of you, because I really honor of what it has resulted in many families. But the more we will reject this energy, the more it will show up. And as a systemic therapist, that is what I believe in. The more we will try to exclude it, the more it will show up. So we have to accept it. We have to give it its position in the world. It belongs. It is a part of our reality. So what I'm trying to explain is, then what do we say? What do we say usually in coronavirus talks? God bless them. Oh God, take this away. Or maybe divine or universe, please guide us. We are suddenly saying it is somebody else's business because it is beyond our role. It is beyond our single individual unit's operation. It is something that is manifesting at the larger collective. Why does it happen that only a certain set of people gather together in workshops and then they say, oh, our batch was very good. And then the other person would say, no, our batch was very good. So for A, their batch was good because it belonged to that conscience. That was the transcendental operating there. And for B, their batch of therapy was great because it was operating in that conscience. And the facilitator is usually smiling because the facilitator belonged to both. And both served his purpose. So something which is absolutely at the larger level is what is transcendental. Okay? I hope I'm able to bring clarity to you now. Okay. So how different is family constellation from ancestral healing? Ancestral healing is an umbrella term. Family constellation is a method. It's a vidha. Just like somebody says, my heart is paining. One vidha would be, कि आप acupressure कर लो, अपने heart के point को दबाओ. The other vidha would be, okay, I will give you some healing. The other vidha would be, the method would be, okay, close your eyes, connect to your heart. The other vidha would be, okay, take some medicine to take away that pain. In the end, the goal was to heal your heart. It's just methods. Family constellation is one of the methods that I incorporate in my work for ancestral healing and of course for a lot of systemic resolution. Okay. चलिए आगे चले. So perfect. So I will now close the chat box and come back to my topic. Give me a moment to check what the time is, because often I just keep on speaking and then I lose the track of time. Okay, so we have to watch the time as well. So then what holds us together in a family system? Abhi theek hai, then Ujjwal, you're saying all these things, we are getting it. But then why am I repeating what my father did? My mother lived a life like XYZ. I always thought I will never be like her. Ujjwal, I am repeating her story. Second option, I loved my father. Now I've started repeating the way he was living. Ujjwal, I was not even born when my grandfather died, and now you're telling me that I'm repeating, I'm following my grandfather. How? I never chose that. So, what keeps a family system together is love and loyalty. And it is our blind love, it is our unconscious love, it is our loyalty to our family that makes us repeat our patterns time and again, all the time, because of which we stay in these so-called unpleasant patterns. I'm using the word unpleasant only for you to understand what I'm trying to say. They're not actually unpleasant, but they're not yours to carry, but still you're carrying them. So it creates unpleasantness in your life. So what do I mean by that? Don't worry. This is the main topic. Today in this lecture, I can only talk for 5 minutes on this, but this is one topic I just keep on speaking because this is what is the principle. And those, some of you here are those who often attend these constellations that I do. We see so much of loyalty showing up. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about, there's this app I've talked about so many times. Okay, I'll repeat it for the, because I always explaining that case study of mine because it helps me make people understand loyalty better. But I will share some other view as well. So A comes to me, I have become an alcoholic and please help me recover from this addiction. From a systemic perspective, I would ask, who was other person who was addicted to alcohol or had something, and then we have our own questions that we go through. And for example, we come to know that the mother of A had alcoholic, strong, intense alcohol intake all throughout her life. And even the father had, and even the grandfather had. But the client would say that Ujjwal, because they were so all the time, drooling with the effect of alcohol, they never attended to me. So I always said that I will not be a father or a mother like this to my child. But 20 years down the lane, I am also drinking alcohol. Now what to do? I never wanted to do it, but it's happening. I can't remain without alcohol. And then we open the field for that person and we realize that the child always felt it never belonged to the family. So for example, let us give this guy named A. Malhotra. Okay, I'm sorry if there is any Malhotra who's listening. I'm not nudging at you. I'm just using an example. A. Malhotra's parents were alcoholic, and even the ancestors were very, very fond of alcohol. A always felt that he is neglected. He was not looked at. He wanted to belong in the family. So unconsciously, he became loyal to repeating the culture, to following the norm of Malhotras, which is drinking alcohol. That to belong to Malhotras, I will not be a true Malhotra if I don't drink. As simple as that. So to continue the legacy, to follow the legacy, I have to follow what Malhotras have been doing. So I will become like that. And that is what your inner voice becomes. And then you start following their footsteps out of your blind love for them, not your enlightened love, but your blind love for them, not your conscious love, but your unconscious love for them. Because the need is to belong. And that is where I say a norm in a family is a loyalty. I'll explain it more. A norm is a loyalty in a family setting, and loyalty is for love. Loyalty is adhered to for love. And all of this happens to belong to the system. For example, everybody is a doctor in the family, and there comes this beautiful child who wants to become a painter or a photographer. What is the guilt that the child holds? Everybody in my family is a doctor. If I don't become a doctor, I will not be a true representative of my family. How will I continue the legacy of my family? And he begins to develop this guilt. And only under that pressure, he leaves all his passions away and does his MBBS and MD or whatever the course in abroad is, only to follow the norm of the family, to be loyal to the family. And then all throughout in his career, he feels unnecessarily burdened, pressured, and just feels that there are all the time obstacles in his career, all the time. Because he's just trying to follow and be like somebody. Or what if he chooses to be a painter and he chooses that, and the child feels that I will still belong if I choose to be a painter, but the family, now the opposite scenario, the family says, हमारे परिवार में तो सब लोग डॉक्टर बनते हैं, everybody in our family is a doctor, where did you come from? You don't belong to us. Here they bring in the entanglement of exclusion, a very, very big entanglement. Now the child was feeling it belongs, but the family feels it doesn't belong to the doctor family because he's becoming a painter or a photographer. So the family says, you don't belong, and an exclusion happens. And when that exclusion happens, so another entanglement shows up. So whenever something is not given its due position, rightful place to belong, it always follows something which leads to certain entanglements. You guys tell me, are you one of those people? Yeah. So are you one of those people who are having some kind of guilt? For example, you are married to a good partner, but your parents did not have a good marriage. Do you always feel shy or guilty of enjoying your good marriage? Or maybe your parents were not very rich or did not have enough financial freedom, but today you are earning well. And even if you're earning well, you don't feel abundant or satisfied just because you have this guilt that my parents could not enjoy this. They should have also enjoyed it. Now I have this money. Maybe I don't deserve it fully or anything like that. If you guys have it, I would like to read your responses into the in the chat box. Feel free to write. I will open the chat box in 5 minutes once we have certain responses. Or if you have anything like this, probably your mother had or somebody's parent had cancer, and now in your family you have heard that their child has also developed cancer. Or as a therapist, we get so many cases. My father died out of cancer. Right, the next year I developed cancer. Why? Out of nowhere, suddenly, only after the father's demise it happened. So we actually start following the footsteps by being loyal to one of our ancestors. If some of you relate with this story, relate with something like this, feel free to write it in the chat box. I will come to it in a while. Okay? So अब आगे चलते हैं. So then who defines? This is going to be our last as so-called official topic for today's thing. Then how do we understand? Up usually you're talking about all of these things, but then what are the right orders? What are the right positions? Who should have been acknowledged? Who should have not been acknowledged? So I present to you orders of love that were given by Bert Hellinger. The only difference that I have made is that different practitioners and different teachers of family constellations believe in different orders of love. Some say there are 3 orders of love, some say there are 6, some say there are 7. Just to break that idea, I have brought in 5 only to say that there are actually no set of love. Orders of love are observed. Orders of love were observed by Bert Hellinger as something which was common in most or oblique in all families that helped in bringing resolution. When that was done, the family issues were resolved. And that he identified as orders of love. Those orders which, when adhered to, bring in harmony in the flow of family energy, which, when unfollowed or which, when disrupted, brings certain entanglements or leads to the so many entanglements or heavy fates that we identify in families. So the first order of love is the order of rightful position. So what do I mean by rightful position? That means, okay, don't read the PPT. Let the PPT be for me to help you gauge better. If you are an Indian person, I don't know about people who are listening to me from other countries, but at least in India we talk about this a lot. हमारे ईश्वर का स्थान देना. Our God has a place in our house. We believe that ईश्वर का एक स्थान होता है. God has a place. Yes or no? We believe that they have a position. Or let's not take God. To cook food, you have a specific position in your house. There's a place called as kitchen. Or maybe if you do not have many rooms in your house, even if you have one room, in that one room as well, you will have one corner, one specific dedicated position for cooking food. You just don't randomly cook food anywhere and everywhere in the house. Or similarly to even to clean your body every day, you have a place where you go and shit. You just don't spread it anywhere and everywhere. There's a rightful position for every task. Yes or no? So when we are talking about humans, when we are talking about relationships, the biggest topic of the healing industry, how can we not have rightful positions there? So in families, everyone has a right place and everybody is included. एक पति का स्थान है. Every husband has a position, every wife has a position, every mother has a position, every father has a position, every chacha has a position, every taya has a position. Even if they did something wrong, it still has a position in the family. And if that position is taken back, if that position is not given credit for, it leads to exclusion, it leads to rejection, it leads to separation, it leads to the break in the flow of energy. And what we understand as therapists is, even if you do not like that person and you would not like to give that person position, the person role, a rightful position, it will find its place back in the family. Because that is what the idea of the larger soul is, to in the end still bring in the balance in the family system. And if that does not happen, it leads to an entanglement, and that entanglement leads to some chaos, and that chaos is what you guys come to us for. And then we help you bring rightful position to people. And everybody belongs to the family. They are a part of it irrespective of what they did. So whether your family had a murderer, whether somebody killed somebody, whether somebody was a victim of an abuse, whether somebody was a perpetrator of that abuse, I'm not asking you to deny what they did. Fully see what they did. But they still belong to that family. They're irrespective a part of it, of what they did. Have you heard these people, because of their gender identities, their orientations, maybe their career choices, maybe the doctor example that I was telling you, that we all are doctors, you are a painter, you don't belong to our family, you're not a true Malhotra, you're not a true Batra, or you're not a true male, you're not a true female. The females in our family do like this, the men in our family do like that. You are not this, so you are not a part of our family anymore. Do you see the kind of rejection in the voice? You tell the other party that you don't belong, and everybody is trying to belong in this world. And that shows up as an entanglement of big entanglement called as exclusion, shows up in so many different ways in the family that leads to so many different health issues, chaos, ladai, jhagda, family issues in the family,
only because somebody was not given or accepted or was not made to feel belonged in the system of the family. And when that order is restored, the flow and the energy of the family is restored. Despite your perceptions. No, Ujjwal, in India, it is not the right way. That is your perception. That is not the fact of life. No, Ujjwal, we are, for example, we are Punjabis, or we are South Indians, or we are Bengalis, or we are Gujaratis, or we are Marwadis. In our system, it happens like this. So we will not accept them. Then that is your choice. We can't do anything about it. That is your perception of life. Facts remain facts. Your perceptions will be your perceptions. We can't do anything about it till you are ready to do something about it. And the moment you give that, last night only I was doing this FC, and such a beautiful revelation. So this woman's father had 2 wives, and only the moment we did not realize that the first wife was demanding the rightful position. The moment we gave that wife the rightful position, despite whatever she did or whatever happened to her, suddenly the whole dynamics, random dynamics in the family changed. And our client started releasing, purging from the body just from that moment. So that. Then the another thing that comes up is that men and women are complementary and equal. Whenever we bring separation and we say that somebody is bigger, somebody is smaller, you are more in power, you are my slave, I am your ruler, you're getting what I'm hinting at. And you know that you have to do this and do that, but I will be this and I will be that. This happens in most families. When that happens, what happens? You guys are looking for therapy all the time because there is no complementarity. There is no sense of lightness in the family. The order is badly disrupted, leads to conflicts, leads to wounded households, leads to deeply dysfunctional families, leads to deeply dysfunctional offices. We don't even do family constellations only for families. In my work, we do business constellations and all these things because that is a business, a job, an office. Everything is a system. We are trying to restore certain order in a system, right? So that then everybody has the right to their own fate. Again, the idea of loyalty that we just discussed. When we start saying, but Ujjwal, you don't know, my mother had a very difficult life. You are telling me not to follow her. But Ujjwal, you're not getting it. She had a very difficult life. You're repeating that again and again to me. So I have to be there for her and follow her. So I never meant by not being loyal to your parent is that you don't care about them. Please do not misinterpret my words. You have to change that blind love into enlightened love. That you have to love your parents, honor them, embrace them, and caress them. But bring in that realization that to be loving to your parents, you don't have to repeat their misery. You don't have to repeat what they did. You can still be highly respectful and loving, but not repeat what your mother or your father did. It was their fate. I'm sorry, maybe your mother never could live a happy married life. So just to be loyal to her, to get her love, you don't have to spoil your married life, but by choosing to make a belief system that my mother never had a good life, she never had a good husband, now even I will not have a good husband. Or maybe my father was always unavailable to my mother, even though I would like to be available to my wife, but that is how the men in our family are, unavailable to women. I have to be like that, my father, so that I'm a true man, or so that I'm a true legacy follower or legacy continuer in this family. No, that was their way, that was their fate. And maybe we really wanted them to live better, but they could not. But can you make this choice today to live differently and still love your parents or your ancestors the way they were? It was their fate. Similarly, a lot of times when somebody dies in the family, death causes deep disruption, especially premature deaths, early deaths. And you may tell me superficially, no, Ujjwal, I've let go of the death of my father. No, Ujjwal, I'm over it. But that beautiful, susceptible, vulnerable inner child that lies in you, that is still not out of the shock or of the place where the child aspect of you, that beautiful inner child, has not accepted the death of your parent. You're still stuck there. So we slowly and gradually, in a very safe space, bring that position that may you recognize that it was your father's fate that he had to leave early. Now, you don't have to create unnecessary health issues in your life, because a lot of times a client will come to you and say, Ujjwal, I just have health issues hi aate rehte hain, because they develop a death urge, which is not leading to death, but they're just developing health issues and health issues and health issues only because they're unconsciously, they're following the footsteps of somebody, maybe a dead ancestor, a dead chacha, or maybe, uh, the dead parent, because they have not realized that it was their fate and now they are being loyal to the fate of somebody else by trying to identify themselves to that person's fate. So when that order is restored, that everybody comes with their own fate, by surrogately living somebody else's fate, we are not at all helping them, but we are causing more pain to ourselves and to the system of family. Can we now choose to drop and leave whatever belongs to them and choose to live our lives differently? That is what I mean to explain here. And then the orders of position, seniority, and age. So, for example, even if you're taking care of your parents, that doesn't make you big. Your parents came first, you came afterwards. So your parents will remain big. I'm not speaking this from a space of ego that you can't take decisions. No, no, no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but the moment a child comes and says, my parents are useless, they could not do anything in their life. They are not at all useful. You're just diminishing their whole role and you're telling that you are bigger than them. You are disrupting the order that despite whatever you are doing, they will still remain your parents. That is their sthan, that is their position. And you're going to be their child no matter what. Similarly, age, as in like, hierarchy here is set in time. What do I mean by that? In a lot of families, even though the son was, for example, there was this girl child, another girl child, and then the son. So the son is youngest, but the son will be considered as the biggest in the family or in amongst the siblings. Maybe the son has to do the roles and responsibilities. You can't come to me and say, no, Ujjwal, you are saying that the son is the youngest, but he has to take responsibility of running the family and everything. Those are his roles and responsibilities. We're not talking about that. But when you're making this order, everybody feel like that all the sisters, just because they're girl child, they're younger or they're smaller than the male child, you're disrupting the order. You have to honor that this girl is the eldest, this one is the middle child, the son is the youngest, and now you guys do your responsibilities whatever you want to do. But you came first, you came afterwards, and then you came. Similarly, in the cases of aborted children and miscarried children, we have to acknowledge their presence. If they were conceived, even if they could not come in the bodies, they were unborn, but they were conceived into the system of the family, they belong. So we have to give them their rightful position. And by order, by that probably, for example, in this order only, a elder daughter, a middle daughter, and the young son. But there were 2 abortions. We have to see that there was this abortion before the eldest daughter as well. So this aborted child would be the eldest of all. And there was this miscarriage that happened just before giving birth to this son. So this child who went through a miscarriage, because it was the fate of that child that it had to leave early, it has to be given its position in the rightful sthan, in the rightful place. So that is where we bring order in different sibling lines and everything as well. So all these things are certain orders of love. This is not an exhaustive list. There are many things that we explore. Through this, I'm trying to explain how do we reestablish order and harmony and rhythm in the flow of a family. Okay, so yahan tak samajh aaya sabhi ko? Did you get what I'm trying to say? So I will, share some quotes now to conclude the lecture. So Mark Woolen, one of my favorite teachers, says this very beautiful quote, and I love it. Just mere pure lecture ka saar hai ye. This is the summary of my lecture. Pain does not always dissolve on its own or diminish with time. Even if the person who suffered the original trauma back in the past into the ancestral reality has died, even if his or her story lies submerged in years of silence, fragments of life experience memory and body sensations can live on, as if reaching out from the past to find resolution in the minds and bodies of those living in the present. So this is where I ask my clients, my dear friend, who does this belong to? This feeling may not be yours. This feeling of being cheated, of being betrayed, this pain in your body, this heaviness in your stomach, this liver cirrhosis, this cancer, this pain in the head that you say that you have been carrying from 15 years now. Who does it belong to? And how does it happen that after the session, our client begins to feel better? Because it was never theirs to carry at the first place. But they are just following somebody, and they have carried the burden of it. So this last quote by this very beautiful guy, very appropriate. I came across this quote in 2017. Since then, it is starred in my WhatsApp, because this, as a family constellator, I see it as a very appropriate thing to be said. So as our practice ripens, it becomes clear that every experience, every situation, every person, feeling or interaction is here to free us in some way. No more or no less. And as therapists, you would understand that. Whether you're going for a regression, whether you're going for inner child work, whether you're coming to for systemic resolution, whether you're going for anything. Maybe right now you would say, Ujjwal, it is very easy for you to say, I am the one who's suffering through the pain. You are telling me it is a gift. I understand. I hear you. Because when the pain is really painful and it is aching at that moment, you don't want to hear this coming from me. And that is why I tell myself to shut up that time. But the fact remains the fact. That story that you're going through, or that you went through, it is here to free you in some way. Nothing more, nothing less. So continuing with the quote, with this understanding, everything is welcomed, because everything is seen as a gift, and each such gift creates its own precise clearing and shift, like pegs knocking each other into place to unlock a timeless maze. And that is where whatever our clients bring to us, we welcome them. We don't, we try to hold a very non-judgmental space. Whatever their reactions to us is, sometimes our clients get angry to us and we say, yes, I understand. Because it is easy for me to say, no, you're not understanding. I did your session. You should not be in pain. No, they are in pain. And can we just honor that pain? Can I welcome their pain as pain? And the same clients, some of you would be listening and you would be smiling because you know what I'm saying. And after some time, when that resolution happens, the same client that felt triggered comes back and says, I feel healed. I feel liberated. I feel better. So we have to welcome all sorts of emotions, understandings, revelations, stories, whatever happened. We have to welcome it, observe it, and just allow it to show up on the field. So my favorite part of this paragraph, which I've especially put in bold, is life keeps meeting itself to return what was borrowed. Maybe it was money, maybe it was something else, maybe it was just certain emotions or burdens buried, maybe it was secrets, maybe it was incest, maybe it was abuse, maybe it was some kind of your personal identity secrets, or disowned examples of exclusion that I've talked in detail today. It keeps returning itself, and in this process of graciously receiving life is whole and complete again. And how beautiful is that, right? So I hope you got what I wanted to share and discuss with all of you today. And I will open the panel to share, and then we will do a very small 5 to 10 minutes meditative process today to complete our lecture. So I will stop sharing the screen. You can share in the chat box if you really understood what I wanted to share here today. And if you have any questions, then in a minute or two, we will move into the meditative space. I'm sorry if I'm running a little late, but I guess this was required. That is what at least I feel.
I think it's beautiful. Well, just one request. Can we do the process and then take questions? Because that just keeps the
Done.
flow.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm sure that are
So
questions.
then all those who have written in the chat box, please allow me to come back to you later. Okay? Is everybody fine with that? Just give me thumbs up, guys. Everybody get ready now. You've been listening to me for 90 minutes. Thak gaye hoge. Chalo, utho ab sab. Okay? So show me some excitement. Great. And maza aa gaya, to ek bari just show me some thumbs up. If you feel what I said resonated. Okay? Perfect. So we will do a very simple, very, very beautiful process, a meditative process today to just acknowledge the beautiful ancestry, the beautiful lineage that we are blessed with from where I'm coming. My mother, my father, her mother and father, and my father's mother and father, and so on and so forth. Can we just open our heart for all the sessions that Joining Hands will be bringing to you in the times to come? Can I help you open your heart to receive that fully? Let's do that. So everybody, close your eyes. I will be playing a music in the background. Allow me for that. Everybody close your eyes. Just relax. With your eyes closed and body in a very, very comfortable position, allow your body to relax and find a very comfortable space, a very comfortable state. To allow to go deep into the center of your being, into the center of your heart. And in this very safe space, know that you are safe here and all is well. Breathing into this beautiful awareness. I would like you to think about your mother, whether you saw her or not. She was there. Whether you share a beautiful bond with her or not, doesn't matter. Your mother and her presence is a fact of life. Just observe how are you feeling. And now become aware of your father. Whether he was there or not. Whether, irrespective of the quality of the bond you shared with your father, just let your father be remembered. And as you remember your parents, as you see them in front of you, just breathe in their presence. This is where life has come to you. Just breathe in their presence. Let your body do the rest. And breathing into the awareness of your mother and your father, I would now request you to give your mother the position on your left shoulder as if your mother is standing behind you on your left side and your father is standing behind you on your right side near your right shoulder. Just observe the presence of your mother on your left side and the presence of your father on the right side. And for a minute, just observe and breathe into the energy that is coming from them. Slowly, visualize, feel, and imagine that your mother places her left hand on your left shoulder and your father places his right hand on your right shoulder. Just give your body the permission to allow your body to receive the support, irrespective of whatever the stories of the past are. Give your body the permission to feel safe and open up to receiving the support from the mother and the father. And now behind the mother, see the mother's mother and the mother's father. The mother's on the left, the father is on the right. For every child, their parent, visualize the mothers on the left hand side and visualize the fathers on the right hand side. And now visualize your father's mother on the left side and your father's father on his right side. Doesn't matter if you've seen them or not. They existed. That's the fact of life. Even if you can't visualize their face, just visualize them as a presence, as an energy being. Their presence is a reality of life. And beyond your grandparents, your maternal as well as your paternal grandparents, visualize your great grandparents, their mothers on their left hand side and their fathers on their right hand side. And like this, so and on so forth, keep visualizing your family lineage for as long and as richly in this family tree you can see. And see all this merging back and back into generations behind generations and generations, merging into a source, becoming one with the source of all existence, of that infinite consciousness from where we all have come from. And spend a moment in visualizing, feeling, and understanding the energy of your ancestral lineage. For a few more moments, just breathe in. Breathe in and become aware this beautiful ancestral tree, which is so rich, so vast. Just become aware and open your heart to receiving the love and the support of your ancestry. This is your unique ancestral lineage. As you become aware of them, you are standing at the apex point. You are the peak. And behind you, like a pyramid, like a growing pyramid, a growing triangle, this lineage is expanding and merging into source, infinite consciousness. Now I would like you to turn. As of now, your back was facing the generation. Turn, visualize that you're facing your parents and you're facing your complete ancestry. In your meditative process, see your ancestry and your parents right in front of you and look at all of them with your full awareness. Just look at this rich ancestral lineage that you're blessed with and acknowledge them in your heart. Acknowledge them and say, thank you. Let this thank you come from your heart. Give your body the permission to say, thank you. It is because of all of you whatever you guys went through, whatever happened in your lifetimes, despite of all of that, you all have passed down the beautiful gift, the most precious gift, the gift of life to me. Thank you. Mummy and Papa, mother and father, Amma and Appa, mom and dad. Thank you for this gift of life. Today I open my heart to receiving your love and support. Today I give the permission to my body to be willing to receive your beautiful love and support from wherever you are. Give your body the permission to feel the flow of love reaching out to you in whatever way, in whatever capacity, in whatever intensity. Don't worry about that. Do not judge that. Just be willing. Just be open. And say to the complete ancestral lineage, including your mom and dad, I love you. I love you. And observe what are you feeling. It's okay. With all your different stories with them, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. And I honor your presence in my life. You all belong. And I see you. I see you. Thank you. And if you feel free, feel right, you may bow down, or you may join your hands, or you may join your hands and then bow down to your ancestral lineage and say, my dear ancestors, my dear mummy and papa, bless me. Bless me, for I choose to live well. For I choose to live my life well. And for I choose to receive the love and support in my life easily and effortlessly. I bow down to you and I open myself to receive life fully and to choose to live well. From this moment onwards, I make a conscious choice to choose to live well, to choose to live healthily, to choose to live lovingly, and to choose to live beautifully. Bless me, Mummy and Papa, for today I open myself to receiving your love and support. Thank you. Just absorb that energy and see the flow of love coming to your heart from your lineage, and then take your rightful position back again. Turn back again with your back towards the ancestors and you facing forward in life, with your mummy at your left, with your papa at your right, and their parents like they were ancestry. And I want you to breathe into this space for a few moments once again, fully opening your heart to receiving the gifts of your lineage, to opening your heart to receiving love, to opening your heart to receiving support, and to feeling loved, to feeling supported in your life. Breathing into that awareness, very, very gently bring your hands on your heart. Tell to yourself, it is safe for me to live well, and it is safe for me to live my life fully. It's absolutely okay. It's absolutely okay for me to live differently and to live well. अपना नाम लेके बोलेंगे, take your name and say, it's absolutely okay. I love you. I love you. Dear one, I love you. Thank you. And then just give yourself a warm hug. Give yourself a warm hug, my dear friends. Touch your body. Our body loves tender, loving, safe touch. Touch your body and say, I love you. It's okay. I love you. Whatever happened, happened. Now I choose to live well and I choose to live my life fully. It's okay. I love you. Give yourself a warm, beautiful hug. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in life into your whole body. Whenever you're ready, my dear friends, very, very gratefully with a smile on your face, slowly begin to come back and open your eyes. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. This is my wish that may you all open your hearts to living a life where you feel loved, where you feel supported, and where you feel safe to live differently and live better than your ancestors. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Om Shanti. Thank you, everybody. So here I conclude my lecture for the day, and the panel is open. The panel is open for 5 more minutes.
It was a
Okay, thank you.
beautiful
I'm
session.
deeply grateful for you to take out so much of time for you listening to me and allowing your awareness to receive something and my awareness to also receive a lot from all of you. Right? So